so anyone who misses me will be able to catch me there. But we're on Kick now. We're checking it out. Um, let people mill in. I don't have tea, water today. I actually already had tea today. Had some chai. It was pretty good. Or or in the spoilers for the newer Spider-Man movie, as they mentioned in there, it's saying chai tea is like saying tea tea. What are you doing? Why, it doesn't make any sense. Hey, Chemgal, good to see you. I don't know if you're a new person or not. I don't recognize the name, so if you're new, welcome, welcome. What we're going to be doing today, it's a little unfortunate because I had started doing this before we were on Kick, and I was like, well, maybe I should have started on Kick or not, or maybe waited until I finished. But just the way timing worked out, it's probably going to take another day. We're going to be reading Genderqueer, a book that was banned in a lot of schools, and asking ourselves, are is that appropriate? Is this book appropriate for children of any age? Something to keep in mind is, something that is inappropriate for a 6-year-old or a sixth grade, 6-year-old. Yeah, sorry, might not be it might be fine for like a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old. Currently, the sense we're getting is so far being about a third of the way through, the book's probably not appropriate for anyone below the age of 15. It could be maybe okay for older high school kids, particularly those where it's not like they didn't just stumble onto it, but recommended by someone who knows they can handle what's in there. Because remember, people develop at different rates, and some people are going to some people at 18, aren't going to be ready for some stuff, and some people, that some people would be okay with when they were 13 or whatever. Um, so far we're about a third of the way through. A note about that. I'm not going to have the content warning on today because, as it turns out, Kick has different rules about what material can be shown as YouTube. It's a little unfortunate because today we're going to get to what is probably the most controversial part of the book. I glanced through ahead of time, like I mentioned before. I glanced through ahead of time just so I get a sense of like what's coming, so I can, if it's inappropriate, not show it. Uh, it's definitely not appropriate for Kick. Whether it's appropriate for children is a different story. We'll get to that when we get there. There are a couple of moments where I am just not going to show on stream what's in the book. It's a bit unfortunate because obviously it's going to be hard for you, the chat, to get a sense of what this book is like and whether it's appropriate or not if you don't get to see it. So my recommendation, I found this on just online. There's a PDF. If you just search genderqueer PDF, it'll come up. If you want to read along, and when I get to those pages, check it out for yourself. In which case, I will say content warning. There's a bit of nudity, a little bit of violence, and slight, and like one depiction of a sex act. That depiction is a lot less graphic than it sounds like by that description. It doesn't involve, weirdly, the depiction of the sex act. It involves no nudity. So when we get there on stream, I will be taking down the. I'm going to be taking down the browser window, so you'll see. Well, I'll show you. It'll be kind of like this. We don't need this content warning. It'll just be like this, and then when we pass it, we'll come back to it. It's only, I have the notes here. It's only 3 pages in this whole section, and it's unfortunate again that you're not really going to be able to evaluate for yourself how appropriate this is, especially because having seen it, I'm unsure how appropriate it is. I lean towards maybe it wouldn't be appropriate for people under 18, but I'm not super confident either. So I'd appreciate, if you wanted to read along and give me an idea as to what you think as we get through it. We'll have one more day of this after because it's there's 3 parts to it, at least as it's set up, divided on this PDF reader, and we'll probably finish that up tomorrow. So that'll preamble aside. Welcome to Kick. Anyone who followed me here. Welcome any new people who will find me here. But we can get into it now. One thing that's going to be a little unfortunate I forgot about as well is that when I upload this VOD, it's just going to be as we did on stream. What am I drinking today? Just water. As I said, I had some tea earlier, and it is a bit warm. I also, just because of like running around, I only like just got back to do this stream, so I didn't even have time to make any if I had wanted some. But I had some chai earlier. It was very good. It's not something I often have access to because I just don't have any here at home. Maybe I should get some because chai is very tasty. Um, so we just have water, but water's great. Who can be upset with water? I got my. I don't know if I've showed this off on my Hydro Homie flask. I know it's backwards. Haha, cool. It is cool. It is in fact very cool. Iced indeed. I'm an idiot. It's okay. So let's get into it. And as I say, I have my notes here. When we get to those pages, I will skip over the appropriate. And if this is too small, because I did change my setup a little bit, just due to how the kick chat is, the fact that it's a black background, I do like, or the dark background, I guess. I do like this dark background. It's much less. I don't know. It's much less bracing, I guess, than the stark white of the YouTube chat. But because of that, if I turn down the opacity, it still blocks what we're looking at behind it. So we're gonna do it like this for a bit, and maybe I'll mess with it more in the future. But let's pick up where we last left off. Let's remind ourselves with the end of part one. If I remember correctly, the author Maya had just gotten to college. Yes, so we're art student, seeing these people with seeing people with potential and being kind of intimidated, but then the glow faded. Seems like realizing that they're normal people, and that's where we left off. I joined the drama club, but was disappointed to find it smaller than the one at my high school. However, this lack of resources led to me getting cast in a male role and my first experience binding. How does it feel? Too tight? No, it's good. Pirates of Penzance. I wonder if that's just the shirt or if that's actually the play they're putting on. I haven't seen it, but I know I actually knew some people who put on a performance of it recently. At the time, I didn't know the dangers of ace bandage binding. It can lead to cracked ribs. Oh, I didn't realize it was that bad. Yeah. A few weeks later, the show ended. I went to a formal school event wearing the ace bandage and a too long tie. What had felt liberating on stage, it felt embarrassing in public. I put the bandage away and never wore it again. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad if you never wore it again, you're unlikely to have hurt yourself using it, seeing as though you didn't know. And I'm glad that you didn't hurt yourself. I have spent so much time looking at boys in button-up shirts, jealous of the flatness of their chests. Sale 40% off. If I didn't have boobs, I'd take my shirt off all the time and feel delicious sunshine on my back. It does feel nice. But I can't stand the feeling of air on my breasts. My boobs are holding my back hostage. So in case anyone is looking at this like, oh, you're talking about boobs and breasts or whatever, this isn't inherently inappropriate for children. No one's saying that in chat or anything. I just want to cut that off before anyone starts to take issue with it. Of that's teenagers know that they exist and that they have them or don't. A binder would have helped, but in college I didn't yet know they existed. I got a work-study job at the library. It's too bad you missed Kira's birthday. We started playing Never Have I Ever with shots, and it got so crazy. Ray, a coworker, this is in sophomore year, 2008. Someone said, never have I ever kissed a girl, and Molly took a drink. Can you believe it? But she refused to give any details. Type. Oh, wow. Haha, I know. I wonder if we got her drunk again, if she'd tell us the whole story. Anyway, have I what? Have you ever kissed a girl? Thump thump. No, I haven't, but I am bisexual. So it's not out of the question, haha. Right on, that's cool. Thanks. This is how it can be. Just okay, cool, not a big deal. It's there's this clear uncertainty of is this okay? And it's better to just be around yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it. Well, she's the first person I've come out to at work. I wonder if she will tell anyone. Kind of weird, but I'm glad I said it. At work a few days later, a girl I sort of recognized from a class, her annoying friend. Can you help us find a book? Sure, what are you looking for? Autumn here needs some books on Human sexuality. Oh God, blush. Can you narrow that down? Is it for a paper? Oh. I feel this. The absolute denseness. I've been in that spot. More of a project. Ugh, Toby. Okay, but do you need history, psychology, medical, social, pop culture? Oh, just like everything. Haha, blush. Okay, well, I'm going to send you over to the reference library and she'll help you giggle. Okay. People need to learn how to use the library. Oh, my sweet summer child. We've all been there. A few minutes later, I saw them leave. They're not even carrying any books. Whatever. Hey, Maya, I found out a secret. Oh, yes? Someone has a crush on you. Huh? I wonder if it's that girl who was in here acting so weird earlier. I don't know how to I'd feel about that. The last day before winter break. My two favorite coworkers, AJ and Fish, both out gay men, on my last shift of the semester. Hey, Maya. It's that girl. How does Ray know her? Hello? Hello. I want you to meet my friend Autumn. We've met. We had a class together. Freshman year, fall semester speech. Oh yeah, definite crush. Like I remember where I met you. I remember what the class was, when it was, what was going on. You sat over here, I sat over there. Then we talked exactly 4 times. Not quite going that far, but it is funny. That's right. I heard that teacher got fired. Oh, he was creepy. Maya, this girl is looking for someone to give her heart to on Christmas, someone to love. Oh, just like out there. How does that make you feel? Blush. Okay, so this is embarrassing, and this happens to people, but you know what? Appreciation to the extroverts who are like, listen, you two are both too shy for your own good. Let's help you out. It's embarrassing and it's hard, but like, it might not have happened otherwise, you know? Are you trying to hook Maya up? This is really awkward. Please stop. Oh God, and coworkers chiming in. No. Apparently immune to embarrassment. Yeah. Extroverts can be like that. The awkwardness is palpable. I have to go by. Hiding upstairs in the library stacks. Well, that might have been the awkwardest, most embarrassing incident of my life. Yeah, I feel that. I can't even imagine how Autumn feels. I decided to send her a Facebook request with a note. Hey, I'm sorry I ran away from you earlier. I'm thinking of killing Ray next time I see her. You want in? She accepted and wrote back, I was going to thank her actually for finally getting me to talk to you. I'm kind of shy. It's hard to start conversations with people like you. What do you mean people like me? People I think are cute. Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't know how to respond. Oh yeah, it's so. Listen, it's a little different, I imagine, because it seems like people have expressed interest in my previously in their life, but like if you're not used to this, I've had that. It's really weird. And people are like, oh, it's weird being on the other side of that. I've been in Autumn shoes a lot more frequently than Maya's here, but like either side, it can be kind of tough. My parents' narrative of meeting in college was deeply pressed into my psyche. This is definitely a thing. Like you do I don't know, maybe it's just me. Chat, let me know. Do you have a similar thing where like how your parents' life went and like how your and like how your friends' life goes? Does that like do you ever get a feeling that these are like milestones that are a reason, maybe not you have to hit, but this is about when people do that, so like shouldn't it be like this, shouldn't my life go this way? Do you get that too? I get it a bit for sure. I think I'm supposed to want this. She's cute, she's friendly, she reads, she writes poetry, she would probably make out with me. But am I interested in that? I can't tell. I bet it would be really easy to make her fall in love with me. Oh, that's all right. I've that's a it's like a kind of embarrassing thought to admit, or not embarrassing thought, but like it's kind of big of Maya to like acknowledge having a thought like that. Um, like it's not a great way of looking at things, and I don't necessarily think that they do now, but like acknowledging that that's a way that you've thought about stuff. I don't know. It's kind of big of them. But for her, it would be real, and for me, it would just be practicing. Ugh, I don't want to talk about this through Facebook. Yeah, not the best media. It's double edged because on the one hand, like when you're really awkward, Facebook is and other social media and like text and things like this are easier to break the ice with because you're not face to face. You can formulate your thoughts. You're just like typing to a screen. There's a little bit of like you can take solace in interacting merely with an object as opposed to the actual person you're talking to. It's a little helpful there, but obviously, yeah, talking about it in this medium is it's not ideal, right? Once it gets to things that are a little more deep, more serious, more emotional, the the through text is just doesn't cut it. I told my dad about the situation. I got a hit on by a few guys when I was in college. At first, I thought it was a little weird, but if you are interested, you can always say no. I found the concepts of dating and relationships deeply confusing. What exactly did people get out of them? That's something that I think maybe like a little experience with it could help with. I mean, at this point, I'm sure they have, but at this point in their life, maybe like you can see a little bit of what people get out of it. I still don't really understand the intention of dating for the short term. That's something I don't understand what people get out of it. That said, people do get stuff out of it. Do you. I don't really care. I'm not saying like it should be disallowed or whatever, or even like looked down on. Just saying like for me personally, when I date, I look for something lasting. That's what I'm getting out of it. But people get stuff out of all sorts of things, and sometimes you just need to experience it to really get the sense of what you get out of it personally. I ended up calling her on the phone. I've never even been on a date. Have you dated very much? I've never dated a girl, but I had a boyfriend for 3 years. We broke up because of you, actually. What? He read my diary, he found an entry I had written about you. Whoa. We had a huge fight, then we broke up. That's crazy. I'm sorry. Yeah, you know what? If he's reading your diary, that seems like a pretty good reason for a fight. Though I'm getting the sense it's like, oh, you have a crush on someone else, and like, I thought we were, but it's like, why are you reading her diary? It's pretty invasive, my dude. Yeah, well, maybe it's for the best, I guess. Yeah, I mean, if this is the kind of guy who's going to do that, yeah, you're probably better off. You're the first girl I've let myself have feelings for. I really want to try being with you. Will you give me a chance? And one of the questions that's not like that hasn't really come up except like by the hint from Maya's dad is like, are you interested in this person? I guess it's come up a little bit of like, well, she's cute, she's trim, but it seems like Maya doesn't isn't particularly interested. But isn't asking themselves if they are. This girl has been on a year-long emotional journey entirely based on the idea of me. She doesn't even know who I am. Honestly, this isn't about me at all. It's fair. Um, what does relationship mean to you? Companionship. Texting when you are apart, holding hands when you are together, having each other's back. This all sounds like friendship to me. Plus that magical knowledge that you are the most special person to your partner. And maybe being physically intimate. Right. Sex. Gross. I wonder if there's a degree of asexuality to Maya. They seem pretty like sex averse, which again, super normal thing to be. A lot of people are. Um, it's just one of those like it's coming out a little bit here and there, and I wonder if that's the case. They seem even like moderately aromantic. Again, super normal way to be. Just it's about knowing yourself, understanding, and sometimes you don't really know until you give it a shot. Maybe you go on a date and you're like, you know what, maybe I am a romantic. You try having sex, maybe I am asexual, and you don't necessarily have to try, but sometimes you need to know. All of the parts of a relationship that sound good I already have with my best friend, and all of the other parts I don't want. This is actually a pretty common thing I noticed. There's a lot of people I know, and I've been in this situation myself, where you have that one friend where like if you were if you were being physically intimate with each other, it would just be a relationship. It would be like really nothing changes, or for them like almost nothing changes kind of thing. But it's not like that. I've had that with a male friend where we're just like neither of us just it just so happens like neither of us are gay, and it's just like if we were, this would be really easy. Like we could just be together, like we get along so well. That's it. I'm not actually friends with that person anymore. This happens constantly. I wonder if there's something to that. I wonder if that's just like, I wonder if that's a thing that's historically happened as well, or if this is like a quirk of our age. I'm not really. I'm really curious about that. It's also not weird, by the way. It's just something I'm noticing. I'm sorry. I guess I'm just not interested in a relationship right now. After the call ended, how many times will I have to say that? Will I spend my whole life trying to reject people as gently as possible? Well, I guess that's one aspect of of being a woman that you haven't gotten away from. I know that happens to like in particular with girls, like just a nonstop cavalcade of interest, which is like pros and cons to that. I'm done thinking about relationships. Also, dating and crushes. It's equally irritating and boring. I've got other stuff to focus on. Friendship is 9,000 times better than romance. Besides, I get all of the drama I needed from queer as folk. uh, okay. I mean, if that's what's interesting, that's okay. Uh, just as long as you know that about yourself, and you can recognize that. Find ways to make yourself happy. It's okay. Interest in erotic gay fiction has been so prevalent in my friendships, one could mistake it for a prerequisite. I bought you some doujinshi. Aragorn and Legolas make out in this one. Yay! It's in high school. And if in case anyone's aware, doujinshi are like fan-made manga um, that is a really big thing in anime culture. Like at Komiket, they have enormous vendors halls where people are just making dojins. That's the other thing. They're often called dojins in English. And yes, there's a lot of male couplings in that. There's a lot of what's called yuri. There's a lot of that. Not necessarily, but it is pretty common. When did you first ship Sam and Dean? College. When Dean pushed Sam against the bridge in the first episode, that part is so hot. Shh, they're about to make eye contact. You mean eye sex? I'm not familiar with this. With what they're referring. I don't know who Sam and Dean are. Grad school. I'm sending you my favorite Merlin fiction. Oh, I know. I've heard Merlin is very gay. If Amazon Kane is in chat, she'll back me up. You have to read it because Merlin and Arthur are the OTP of my heart. One true pairing, as I understand, is what that stands for. And you have to read the Harry Lewis story I'm sending you. In fact, I'm shocked when a friend says, "I'm not really into slasher gay comics." What? Really? I thought gay porn was universal. Later, she described herself as heteroflexible and tried to explain why she liked lesbian porn more than gay porn. I think it's because so this is okay. So this is something I didn't know going into it because obviously I was only checking the graphics to see what was appropriate. Discussions of porn probably inappropriate for for younger. So we're like pushing the age higher and higher. I'm at the point where like 16 is a maybe, 17 or 18 is also a maybe. Like, well, 18 obviously, you're an adult, whatever, you can do whatever. But like 16 to 17, it's like maybe it's inappropriate for children that age as well. And this is where like more feedback, more discussion would be really helpful for me in particular to understand this. But maybe it would be inappropriate for high school kids even. Discussion of porn isn't wrong, but it is currently taboo, and a lot of parents don't. I don't know. It's one of those like I don't think it's necessarily a problem, but I do get that a lot of people would take issue with that. I think it's because I just don't know how to assign a sensation to that body part that I don't have. I assign sensation to a body part I don't have all the time. Sometimes I can almost feel where it would be, resting against my thigh. During the 2010 Winter Games, all of my attention was focused on figure skater Johnny Weir. Weir? I think it's Weir. I was entranced. He was one of the most talented athletes I've ever seen, and he makes me want to wear glitter. And so, wait, why are we going here again? My sister Jones Fabric and Crap. I think it's supposed to be like the chain Joanne. I need rhinestones. Also pink ribbons and black lace. Why? I'm going to be Johnny Weir for Halloween. I went all out for my costume. Oh wow, yeah, looks like, geez, that looks pretty good. I mean, if it looked anything like this, it's pretty impressive that you made that. I hand sewed a replica outfit with Phoebe's help. Phoebe dyed my hair for the first time. We watched his entire reality TV show together, and later we read his book, Welcome to My World by Johnny Weir. The clearest metaphor I had for my own gender identity in college was the image of a scale. A huge weight had been placed on one side without my permission. I was constantly trying to weigh down the other side. Assigned female at birth, weighed against short hair, baggy boy clothes, name, pronoun, hormones, top surgery. Some of these haven't been added on yet, But the end goal wasn't masculinity. The goal was balance. I think that's really interesting. I think that helps to understand, like at the very least for me to understand. I hope a little bit better non-binary identity, which is something I wanted to understand. I'm so glad. I cannot express how glad I am that we decided to read this book because non-binary identity is something I did want to learn more about, and I would like to more even past this. And so I'm glad we just like stumble on something that can help understand it. For me personally, I found it enriching. I feel like I'm understanding a little bit better. Obviously, this isn't going to be the same experience that everybody has, but I can at least understand Maya's experience, and I think that's a positive. That's something to note. Is like we're evaluating this and asking ourselves over and over: is this appropriate for kids? Is it appropriate that it got banned? But we're not asking ourselves other things like is this book worthwhile? Does it have something we can learn from it? And I think unquestionably yes. Even this far into it, a third to a halfway through, no question that this book is valuable in what it has to say. And that's something that gets left out of the conversation. And I think is important to ask ourselves also when asking if it's important, if this is appropriate for children, because part of it is there something valuable that someone younger could get out of this? Some of these messages I think are really valuable for people much younger than what we have decided, what we're leaning towards as far as appropriate age range. The problem is that you probably don't want to show these like really graphic images to like a 9-year-old or something, but understanding these things can be really helpful. I wonder if there's any thought the authors had to a version of this that is appropriate for younger readers, because I think it could be really valuable to them. It's just a matter of like writing the book as it was important to write it for them, as they wanted to write it. That's a value in itself. The author should get something out of it as well, and they should tell their story the way they want to tell it. And if it's not appropriate for kids, most books aren't, right? People just write books, right? They're not most of the time when someone writes a book, they're not saying like, "Oh, this is this if it's inappropriate for a 12-year-old, then it's not worth." Right? They just write the book, tell the story they want to tell. And there's a value in that too, but I wonder if there's any thoughts like, because a lot of these ideas are really well put in this book, and also the comic style is really approachable. I wonder if that's part of where some of this backlash came from, is people saw this and go, it's a comic, and assumed it's for children, which it doesn't have to be, and then say, wow, they want to show this to kids. No, but like, not necessarily. Comics can be for people of all sorts of ages. I mean, Watchmen is a good example of a graphic novel I haven't read, but I'm certain that would be really inappropriate for like a 10-year-old, But that doesn't make it illegitimate. The fact that it was a graphic novel has nothing to do with its age range, just like here. And I wonder if part of the but it would, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of messages that would be really valuable to someone younger than this book would be appropriate for. Dressing up as a male character let me play with the idea of how I would choose to present myself if the weight of assigned sex had been placed on the other side of the scale. If I had been born a boy, I would play with this stuff every day. And I wonder if they mean that they would play with these things that are generally associated with being a woman. I'm not exactly sure I understand this panel. When I was 21 when I wore this costume. I felt more sexy and more joyful than I had in a long time. Oh, complete with rollerblades. Oh, just way to nail the outfit for real. Good job. I wouldn't have thought to do it just like, oh yeah, you go to a park, just walk around or whatever, and be like, oh, but this is a figure skater. I got my rollerblades so I can do this. Oh, once you blade, you never fade. Hell yeah, Peachy Keen, preach. So true. I had to be Johnny Weir on wheels because I cannot ice skate to save my life. Well, that's fair. That's fine because you also Uh, probably shouldn't. You couldn't ice skate, at this party probably, but you can like rollerblade up to it. That's awesome. It's a nice, it's a great touch. That said, I'm a little surprised at that. Growing up, I did a lot of rollerblading and ice skating, and they felt pretty transferable. It is different. They're definitely not the same. But they felt fairly similar to me. I'm surprised that they have no problem with. I mean, maybe they were awkward on the rollerblades or whatever, but like, I'm surprised they have that much difficulty with ice skating, but not with rollerblading. Just double check. Okay. After this page, I'm gonna have to stop screen sharing. No, stop sharing this window because we're gonna get our first instance of something that would be disallowed on Twitch. Again, I highly recommend that if you're over 18 and all that, which you should be if you're watching this, right? We set the age restriction. I highly recommend that you read along for that portion to help, contribute to the conversation as far as whether it's appropriate. It is definitely not allowed on Kick, so I won't be showing it. But not allowed on Kick is not the same as inappropriate for people under 18. There's stuff not allowed on Kick that would be appropriate for 18 plus, but it's not allowed here. It's not the same thing. So we'll get to that. Just know after this page, I'm gonna have to take it down. Reality reinserted itself. Maya, you can come in. Okay, gynecology. Your doctor will be in here in a few minutes. We'll be here in a few minutes. Please remove all of your clothes and put on the robe. All of my clothes? Yes, please. Okay, so I'm gonna take this down. Cool. And I'll put it back up once we pass the portion that Kick won't let me show on stream. So Maya gets undressed. It's not a sexual depiction of that, obviously, because it's a depiction of themselves, but also it's a depiction of their body that is, remember, they feel very uncomfortable with. So the first few frames are just still clothed, just like taking off like socks or like taking off a part or whatever. Next we have without a shirt, without a shirt. Next from behind without clothes at all, or like kind of from the side. Again, not sexual in its depiction. Then we see from the front, and then put on the robes. It's not a sexual depiction, but it is a depiction of nudity, in a similar way as we discussed with the previous section, where you see butts or whatever. It wasn't really displayed in a sexual way, which is why I felt it was appropriate for YouTube, it, like followed YouTube's guidelines. And it's not pornographic in its nature, just understanding that nudity is a thing that people can be nude. It's not. It's again. It's very, very much not pornographic whatsoever. In the same way that you might see a depiction of the naked body in an anatomy textbook or sexual health textbook, less detailed, much less detailed, and like just understanding this is what a naked body looks like. Um, Again, for people who are a little bit older in high school, this is very much not, or this is not necessarily inappropriate. Younger side maybe, but like nudity is a thing. It's not really that weird. Like, I hope you went along with it with me to like see if you agree, but that's my sense of it. So now the doctor comes in. Hi there. Is this your first pap smear exam? Yeah, clearly uncomfortable. Let me ask you a few questions first. Do you drink? No. Do you smoke? No. Do you exercise regularly? No. Have you ever been sexually active? No. So what I'll be doing today is opening your vaginal canal with a speculum. By the way, discussion of what happens in a doctor's office for this kind of thing, 100% not inappropriate. Maybe not 100%, but definitely not inappropriate for children. This should be like part of sex ed class. And the kind of thing that a person should probably know before it happens to them, right? This is kind of like when we got to menstruation in the previous section. Like, people should probably know before this comes up, because otherwise, it can be a lot to take in at once. It's not a bad thing to have to have a medical exam. Obviously, it's very good, but you want to know and be prepared and all that stuff. All right, that was the first one. So what we'll be doing today is opening your vaginal canal. Again, this is vaginal canal is in sex ed with a speculum. Then collecting a little bit of sample cells. Mainly, we are screening for cervical cancer. Do you have any questions? Yeah, why don't I feel like a girl? Why do I get turned on by gay sex? Just thoughts or whatever. Is there a physical attribute of my body like an overlarge clitoris or something that makes me feel like I should have a penis? Nope. Yeah, unfortunately, this is just one of the rough things about living in a society. That so much like so many questions that you'd want to ask, and some of it, and a doctor feels like the person who would have some of the answers to some of these questions just feel like so shameful to ask, but like clearly they need the answers, right? And such as it is. Um, we're going to after this get another part where I have to take down the window. This one I'm a little less sure if it's okay with Kick. I just don't want to take any chances, especially since I'm new here. Being new, I'm sure they'll have no issue simply just banning my account and just being done with it. If your first stream is like that. So I'm just going to take it down, even though it might not be inappropriate, and I'll discuss what's on there. All right, I'm going to warm this up with my hands, but the lubricant is going to be a little cold. Could you lay back and put your feet in the stirrups? You're not going to see any of this, by the way. This is not what the next thing is. Try to relax. What I experienced next was 45 seconds of the most excruciating pain of my life. So I'm going to take this down, but this is going to be kind of a like fantasy understanding of this, not a literal one. I felt as if I had been stabbed through my entire body and with this came a wave of psychological horror. So they're hunched over. They're not wearing any clothes, but you don't see anything, and there's like a spike driven through them. Maybe it's inappropriate for Kick. I don't know. But this is this closer to the imagery we saw with? There's actually not that much blood. But it's similar to the imagery we saw with menstruation, where it's more violent, and it's not really sexual at all. And the realization that things can go inside my body. I can bring this back up now. And you can see just from like the text here, kind of the sense that they have for this. So that's instance number 2 where we have to take it down. There will be one more before we finish here. Of course, I already knew this fact intellectually. Embodied knowledge is entirely different matter. Oh, sorry, I've forgotten about this one. We'll slide past that. But it's basically the same kind of image. What my body told me was that this intrusion of the outside world into my internal physical being was wrong on a level too deep for words. So it's interesting. Clearly, really, really uncomfortable to the point where uncomfortable feels like an enormous understatement with anything going inside. Like even a speculum for a medical exam. I don't specifically remember getting dressed or leaving the appointment. I do remember that as soon as I got back to my car, I burst into tears and cried for half an hour. Oh, that's awful. I'm so sorry. After that, I felt too shaky to drive home, but I had brought a book, so I sat and read until I finished it. Wow, it was a pretty rough experience. Like realize how like traumatic that is if this is the reaction. And this is with something that's pretty ordinary for someone with a vagina, right? Like that's the level of discomfort that we're dealing with, and we're seeing it come up over and over again. Now they have a little bit better idea of this, but like still hasn't really talked much about the concept of being trans or like or like dysphoria or anything like that. And I don't know that they are. I'm using they them pronouns mostly just to be safe, but I don't really know what pronouns they use. I would assume not she her. That seems pretty unlikely, honestly, that they go by she her. If I could have removed the vagina out of my body after that experience, I would have. In lieu of that, I promised myself that nothing would enter it ever again. Yeah, like again, this feeling has nothing to do with like the trans agenda, transing all the youths and whatever. Like obviously not. You can see by this experience that that's just not how it is. This I wonder if this is part of the hysteria surrounding the book, is like it dispels so many of the myths that anti-trans people try to sow, and also is like pretty affirming of and helping people understanding. I think a lot of the backlash is probably just because of the subject matter, not any of the imagery or the discussions, or like some of the things that might be inappropriate. I think the thing that people would say is inappropriate for children is the concept of being genderqueer, or trans or whatever else, LGBT in some way. After graduating from college, I tried to stay in touch with some of my fellow art majors by getting together with them once a month. Hey Maya, can I ask you kind of a personal question? Go for it. Are you gay? I was surprised because I thought I had been out in college. I'd made a point of posting about it on Facebook every year on National Coming Out Day, and I went to Pride in the city. I guess some people missed the memo. Bye, actually. Very cool. High five. I do get this a little bit of like, I mean, why high five? Like this is it. It's not like exceptional, right? It just like you wouldn't high five. So like, well, I guess people do high five for being hetero, but that's what, normally when they're bigots, you know. But usually it's just like, okay, you know, it's just normal way to be. Sure. I've seen this a little bit when people say like, oh, they say they're non-binary and be like, oh, congratulations, like for what? You know, I guess it's for like understanding yourself or whatever, but just normal, you know. You're just you. My gaydar is so bad. Before my little brother came out to me, I had no clue he was gay. And we were only 16 months apart, almost like twins. Can you imagine being bi? What if we were both just as crazy about girls as we are about boys? We'd probably die. I bet I'm less than half as interested in boys and girls combined than you are in boys alone. Well, maybe not even 25%. When I was 14 or so, I told a close friend, I think I'm asexual. You can't be. I've seen you lust after people. Well, yeah, but not very often, and I don't enjoy it. I remember my first year at SF Pride thinking that asexual group had the best signs. Why have sex when you can have cake? Counterpoint. Counterpoint? You could have both. You don't have to, but that's an option on the table. How about we just cuddle? Cuddling, highly underrated. I will say that. Fair. Cuddling, top tier. Cuddling is great. When you're cuddling with someone who wants to cuddle, it's amazing. Don't cuddle with people who don't want to cuddle. That's life advice from me to you. All right, you can take that with you. Asexuals have other things on their mind. I assume everyone, but yeah, that's true. Yeah. And of course, the ace sign. Alison Bechdel writes in Fun Home about discovering masturbation soon after her first period, page 170. I didn't know then that there was a word for the oddly gratifying motion of rocking back and forth in my chair as I drew at my desk. I discovered it around the same age, followed by the further realization that my ability to become aroused was governed by a strict law of diminishing returns. I forgot about this page. My bad. Let me take this down real quick. It's a depiction of like Grecian art, which is not pornographic, but like it involves nudity. An elaborate fantasy based on Plato's Symposium. The more I had to interact with my genitals, the less likely I was to reach a point of any satisfaction. The best fantasy was one that didn't require any physical touch at all. Okay, we can bring it back. Let me double check that I didn't miss anything. Yeah, I don't think so. Sorry about that. I hate having to take it down, but it's just one of those like I don't want to be safe. I always thought that I had a fairly vivid imagination, but around age 16, I felt like I'd run through literally every sexual fantasy. I used up all my material. This led to the first time I gave up wanking. Oh, we got a chart. 2005, blue months I wanked, white months with no wanking. Yes, I kept track. Apparently it was 6 months apart. Jeez. In 2005, this hiatus was intentional, but, next slide please, I had two more unintentional hiatuses in college. I had no idea what to make of this annual pattern of asexuality. Was it a hormone imbalance? Was I malnourished? Was my body operating like a did I bring this back? Okay, like a seasonal sexual cycle, like a bird? Uh, Bird gender is new to me. Maybe that's what it is. Obviously, I was way too embarrassed to ask anyone about this. Okay, it's well, I know. Hopefully, you've come to term. It seems like you've come to the terms of this, but this is all very normal. People, people are all sorts of ways. You don't have to be interested. You don't have to be interested in wanking, as you put it, that often. That's fine. Eventually, I feel like I'm saying that like an argument, but like obviously I'm like it's not. I assume they'd agree, and it's just like they're recounting the difficulties coming to understand that. Eventually, I got tired of thinking about it, and I just stopped keeping track. Yeah, it's probably fine. In 2013, I discovered. Okay, so this isn't one I would argue. This is not inappropriate for kick. This is an object. All right, this is not. All right. In 2013, I discovered Erica Moen's webcomic "Oh Joy to Sex Toy." Oh Joy Sex Toy. In a comic from November of that year, she talks about the first sex toy she ever purchased, a $10 bullet vibrator. Moen writes, "My first orgasm is still one of my most vivid, lovely experiences. It was the first time I ever loved my body." So I want to remind everyone that discussion of masturbation and sexuality and orgasms is a thing that kids should probably be at the very least aware of in like middle school. That's when I got my. That's when I had a sex ed class in my school. Um, these are the kind of things they know about, and discussions of it will become more and more reasonable as they get older, right? Obviously, this isn't in like this isn't in like a leering and appropriate way, just talking about their experience with it, such as it is. Maybe it is inappropriate for kids, for even for older teens, but I don't know, like doesn't seem that strange. I don't know. Again, happy to hear what you think, chat. The way she talks about orgasms makes me wonder if actually I've never had one. I guess I should get one of these and try it. A few weeks later, I bought one. I remember leaning in my bedroom doorway, imagining how good this vibrator was going to make me feel. I got off by pressing the front of my jeans, the unopened box in hand. But when the time came to actually turn it on, I'll try the lowest setting. That's what Erica used in the comic. I guess I just press it down there. This feels very weird. So again, we see a depiction of masturbation, but like no nudity. It's not pornographic. It's not even really sexual. Just like an experience that I don't, and in more like not enjoying it, right? I don't think I like this. Okay, nope, 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 nope. Turn it off, turn it off. Haha, well, that was not for me. Okay, it wasn't for you. A little while later, hey, Phoebe, what's up? So I bought this vibrator. Ooh, well, it's not that exciting because I don't really like it. I only used it once for like a minute, then I washed it super well. I'm not going to use it again, but I'd feel bad throwing it away. Do you want it? Haha, sure. Yeah, I don't know. Is that weird? I feel like that's a little like using this, it's like passing on a sex. I get like it's clean and all. I don't know. It feels a little bit weird. It's kind of like if you wore your underwear once and then give it to somebody else. Like I don't know. There's something about it that feels odd. I guess it's fine. Back when Facebook first added more gender options. Wow, there are so many. This, by the way, is where so many people got all up in a tizzy about 72 genders or whatever. There aren't 72 genders. There were 72 gendered options on Facebook at one point. It's not, and some of them are duplicates. So like here we have like cisgender, but like male is going to be on there later. Like boy, a man or woman is going to be on there later, and you can be a cisgender woman, right? Like it's not even it's not even mutually exclusive. They're not even. Ugh. It's but they won't shut up about 72 genders now. Thanks, Facebook. I guess meta now. Wow, there are so many. Should I choose one? The thump, the thump. Why is my heart pounding? Nobody cares about Facebook. Gender, yes, cisgender. Yeah, exactly. There's so many experiences, but it's one of those like, it should be like, okay, if you select cisgender, now it's like, cisgender, like, what were you assigned at birth on top of that? And then like there's another one, bigender. Okay, but which two genders or whatever, and like androgyne and androgynous are like somewhat similar, aren't they? I actually don't know what androgyne is if it's not the same as androgynous. Um, uh, Gender, yes, yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those like it's a spectrum, and encapsulating that spectrum is very difficult. And there are a lot of categories of experience that we discussed. Most people tend to be cisgender of either man or woman. but that's bimodal, and there's a lot of experience outside of that, and that the categories exist help us understand things. But like, how do you sum up the totality of human experience in this way? You can't, right? But you make an effort. This was an effort, and it was misguided, maybe, and it was like, but it was an attempt, and you can't really fault them for that. What I do fault people for is not getting it and then being like 72 genders, 72 genders. It's like, okay, all right, well, you're an idiot. Move on, you know? Like obviously you don't understand what's going on here. In June 2014, I celebrated 10 years of keeping my book list by drawing a short comic about it. It features statistics about my decade of reading. In 10 years, I read 1,786 books. That is absurdly impressive. Wow. Awesome. 1,022 comics and manga. Okay, depending on length, like, alright, that's a little different. But still, 764 novels and nonfiction. Here we have a breakdown of the different genres: young adult, science fiction, LGBTQ plus, historical fiction, nonfiction, biographies, classics, mysteries, poetry, and essays, fantasy, by far the majority, or I guess the plurality. Um, and then we have a breakdown by year. Total in 2006, 222, then a drop and it comes back up. Probably because there's a lot of work in college that, you don't have as much time to read as you did before, is my guess. But that's an impressive amount of reading. Very, very impressive. Most read Western authors: Neil Gaiman, 37 books read. These numbers include rereads. Fair. Um, I haven't read anything by Neil Gaiman, but I've heard he's very good. Terry Pratchett, another like legendary writer. I started to read one Pratchett novel, but I ended up putting it down. Tamora Pierce, I haven't heard of. McAllister, there's a lot. J.K. Rowling. Between 2004 and 2014, I read most of the Harry Potter series twice, and books 6 and 7 4 times each. There was a while. Maybe this will sound like weird to people, but screw it. You know what? This is the internet. Time to overshare. There was a while where, just because of how my home life was, I would be at home for hours and hours and hours on end without really anything to do except for having my few books. I must have read Harry Potter 3 and 4 like 50 times each, easy, maybe more. So I get that. Like those were the books I had. So there you go. Most read manga and manhwa authors. I don't know what that is. That might be like Korean manga. I'm not sure. Um, I don't know. I don't recognize any of these names. Not that I would expect to. This comic was very warmly received by book lovers, teachers, and librarians, but I remember thinking, this is definitely the last autobiographical comic I will ever write. Future you got you. Haha. Get wrecked, nerd. No, I'm just kidding. The only thing I feel comfortable with strangers knowing about me is what I read, or what I read. Not long after this, I had a conversation about the word cisgender with a cis straight male friend from high school. I feel like this word is just came out of nowhere. I'd never seen it before a month ago. Now it's in all of these online spaces. There was a part of me that was a little, like I didn't. It was a little, not exactly this experience. A little bit like, oh yeah, where did this word come from? Because it seemed to be in common use and it wasn't obvious to me, and I didn't know where it came from. Obviously, it came from somewhere. I don't have any issue with it. It was just there was a little bit of me that was like, oh yeah, like it did feel a little bit like it came out of nowhere. But I mean that more of just like an observational than like an issue. I don't even know if he's saying it like it's an issue. And if you don't know what it means, people call you an asshole. That has not been my experience, but I've heard people had a similar experience as that. There is an unfortunate tendency on the left to say something to the effect of "it's not my job to educate you." And while that's true, unfortunately, a lot of things people need education on. They're not going to know about it themselves. And I'd rather have more people understand and be on board. Um, so I'm happy to help. I mean that's part of what this channel is about. Part of why I'm here is I'm happy to help educate people with the little I know, because I know it's not any given person's obligation, but people do need to be educated on this stuff, because if people aren't, well, then they're just going to be like, this is weird and gross and I hate you. You know, like this is how you get bigots. Meanwhile, the right is like, oh, let me tell you all about whatever conspiracy theory or like their Holocaust denial or whatever else, happy, more than happy to go on about it for hours. And I think that's a problem. We could do a better job with onboarding people. People want to understand things, and if they, and I don't mean this in an indoctrination sense. I know that's also an accusation the left gets a lot. Like, if you just don't understand it, you need to understand it, and very frequently, once you do understand it, the people who understand it tend to be on board. It just happens to be that way. This is why college campuses lean left. It's just that reality has a left-leaning skew. It's not that these opinions come out of nowhere. It's just like when you're educated on stuff, you're not going to have these like really regressive and reactionary beliefs. It's kind of how it goes. And this is why you get people like, in part, why you get people like Ben Shapiro, who is educated, but is on record as saying he kept his mind and ears closed during his college years, refused to learn. And so now here he is spouting right-wing nonsense that is often very wrong. And I don't mean like wrong by my opinion. I mean like factually wrong. For being the facts and logic guy, he is factually incorrect constantly. But it's because he's trying to justify his unjustifiable views. Such as it is. Education is important, and we got to help each other. It's not hard to look up the meaning of a word. Google it. True. That's the other half of it. A lot of times, people are unwilling to do the work themselves. Even a very small amount of work, like look up the word cis. You know what? We're going to do that. We're going to do that right now. Because it's something that's important to do. Short for cisgender. I want to look up the origin of the word. Origin, independent of usage. Cis is from English. Oh, it doesn't tell me as much. From Latin, on this side of. Okay, well that's not what we want. That is the flip side. There's a lot of unwillingness to do any work from people like this. The problem is that like if they don't do the work, if they don't do any looking up into it, and nobody tells them, well, they just end up being adversaries when they could be allies. And that's a problem too. And it sucks that like, yeah, literally just look it up. It's not that hard. On the other hand, some of the work is kind of hard to find, and if nobody is willing to talk about it and no one is willing to help someone understand, then the work becomes unnecessarily hard and sometimes too difficult. You have to read these. You have to know which books to read and then read them to have an understanding. That's not going to work. A lot of people just understand better in different ways, and this is diversity of tactics, the value of live streams, the value of video essays, the value of people who are willing to help others understand this stuff. And it can be. I have seen people who find it like very annoying to have to like do the 101 type stuff. Personally, I don't mind. I enjoy it. I'm like helping people through that. But you know, leaving it alone is just so much worse. But it's sad because like just because Maya's in this conversation, should she be forced to explain it to this guy? No, probably not. But someone should explain it to this guy. Yeah, but like, well, do you identify as cisgender? Not really. You don't? No. It was the first time I had said that out loud, and it's the first time it's come up in this book, and I assume that's intentional. I assume that was deliberately set up in this way, because I was going to say that it seems like it's the first time you thought it. You haven't mentioned it really this whole time. This is the first the idea of being cisgender has even come up, but apparently it had been bubbling under the surface. I do like that. It reminds you that you're not really looking at this. You're even as much as this book is trying and doing a good job of letting you into the author's headspace and understanding how they feel and how these experiences affect them, you are still always at some level not going to be in their head. You don't get to live there like they do. And so there are going to be things that are going to come as a surprise to you, the reader, that the author is aware of, that the character at this point already knows that they don't identify as cisgender, even though they haven't said it out loud. And there's some amount of like that disconnect, and like you don't really know what's going on in someone's head, and it shouldn't be necessary in any way. I think this like little section does a lot more than is obvious on the surface. I think I like it a lot. I have been really enjoying this book, honestly. We're about halfway through, and like more and more, I'm just like I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. I even had a thought. Like I wonder if I could ask the author to come on stream for an interview because I do enjoy it a lot, and I would like to learn more from them. I don't know if they'd be willing, but maybe once we're done, I'll reach out and see if they'd be willing. That'd be pretty cool, right? Do you feel sad that you weren't born with a dick? Lol, sometimes. Oh, and this is the thing, right? Like this guy doesn't seem like he's opposed to anything. He just wants to understand stuff. And it sucks that like Maya has to be like is in this position, but like all he really needs is to understand. It seems like somebody has to help him with that. It's just kind of how it is. And no, it isn't any trans person or person of color or whoever's job to educate on whatever experiences, right? But this guy, like, all this guy needed was a little bit of a helping hand, and if someone can do it, well, we get that's one more ally, right? And it makes for a better world. Naturally, I relayed this whole exchange to another queer female friend, and then I guess I ended up coming out to him completely by accident. I just said it, kind of like how you've just said it to me right now. Yeah, pretty much. That is funny, because as Maya said, like that was the first time they said it out loud, so they obviously didn't say it to their friend, this friend either. Like, yeah, that's cute. I decided to talk to my mom about it. I know I told you ages ago that I'm bi, but I think now that I'm probably genderqueer too. What do you mean? Well, I'm still sorting out what it means and somehow it means and how to explain it. But like, I've never felt female or identified with being female. Specifically, things like having breasts or having a period. No one likes having their period. I mean, I know, but I feel it goes deeper than that for me. And as we've seen in the experience so far, they've done a great job of helping us understand this. Like, we have the benefit of seeing their experiences and understanding like how true the depth of this experience is. But when someone tells you they're genderqueer or whatever, you don't necessarily have access to that. And to you it shouldn't matter, right? Like you should just respect it, respect people, and if they say they're genderqueer, okay, take them at that. Um, but understand, like, we don't have access to the inside of people's heads, and we have the benefit of this memoir to see a little bit inside of Maya's. But when someone says it's not just like, oh, I don't like having a period. It's not just that. There's more to it. Uh, there's truth to that, and a truth that we might not have access to. And that's like, again, back to the incredible value of this book is that it's showing us this in a very clear way, in an understandable way, a very well done way, a little bit of what that's like, in a way that can be really relatable, so that now when you have a moment where someone says, I've never really felt female, and it goes deeper than that for me, you can understand that their experience might not be exactly like this, but you can understand the depth of that experience at the very least. Understand that this is meaningful to this person. Even if it wasn't, you should respect that. But that you understand it, you can understand it, a little bit more where they're coming from. It's the value of hearing about other people's experiences. I feel like I'm talking about something like very obvious. Like obviously, learning from other people is valuable and what they go through. I just think this book is very good and very poignant in how it does that. I'm just overwhelmed by it, and so I feel the need to keep discussing it. My whole life, I've wished for a magical way to switch between genders, so that you could be male sometimes. Sort of, but not exactly. It's more about not being female than being male. This is what I meant about like more. This is where it seems like more of a non-binary experience than a trans man experience. And I say a non-binary experience because obviously people experience things differently. This is just one example of what that could look like. You don't have to be super feminine to be a woman. I'm not. I know. But like, you don't hate having a vagina, do you? No, of course not. I hope you don't hate your body. No, I don't hate my body. I don't have a chronic pain or any of those of any of the other health issues so many of my friends deal with. The majority of my body is great. There are just a few bits I don't like. For example, if I could just remove my entire reproductive system, that would be ideal. But what about having kids? Ugh, I've told you 100 times I am never having children. I wish you wouldn't say that. You'd be such a good mom. This is a huge difficulty. I've seen this happen so many times, and it's a rough thing. Whether, irrespective of your gender or your sexuality, like I know someone who doesn't want to have kids, and like their family refuses to be on board with it, and like it's just so rough. And I get a little bit of where family comes from, of like, oh, but like I'm hopeful for you and whatever. But like that's just not what they want. And I understand. Yeah, that's rough. This happens to a lot of people. I guess a good message of this book, and one that I'm like harkening back to over and over, is just try to understand people. I mean that's good outside of this, but it's one of the themes I think this book circles around. The like how much of Maya's experience would have been better slash easier slash whatever if people understood, or like tried to understand one another and understand them in particular. No, I wouldn't. I'd be constantly resenting the kid for taking up all of my time. I'm way too selfish for parenting. Okay, well this is one where like I've seen people have that, and then they change they change a bit, and like later it's different. But like okay, sure, this is where. Plus, but at the very least, like your mom should understand. Like they've expressed the sentiment. Don't like they shouldn't be like, oh yeah, you're definitely gonna have kids or whatever. Plus, the thought of growing a parasite of like growing the thought of growing a parasite being inside my own body. Oh, this is a little bit. The syntax is a little bit. The grammar's a little bit wrong here. That's what tripped me up. Plus, the thought of growing a parasite being inside my own body makes me want to vomit. Parasite? What? About 24 hours later, I want you to know I've never thought of you as a parasite while I was pregnant. Oh, good? Yeah, like, yeah, it's kind of funny, but like, maybe you worried, maybe made your kid feel like that. It seems like their mom is really caring. A few days before the start of our second year of grad school, July 2014, Ashley R. Uh, Glory called with an important question. Is it okay if I bring a One Direction poster for our dorm? Yeah, dude, I'm putting up all kinds of nerdy shit. So what are their names again? Zane, Lewis, Neil, Liam, and Harry. The music started to infuse our work sessions. I started to be able to recognize the boys in Tumblr posts. Then we watched the documentary. Before I knew it, I had been sucked into the fandom. One Direction fandom is not something I know terribly much about, but I do know there's a huge fandom for it. I know there's also like a pretty popular slash category, or at least I've heard as much. The release of One Direction's fourth album coincided with my first crush in several years. A family health crisis. Oh, a different kind of crush. The slow, painful ending of my oldest and dearest friendship and my last year of grad school. Or maybe this is a list of things. Like many before me, I poured all of my feelings into writing fan fiction. In my story, all of the 1D boys are lusting after each other, and it is destroying their friendship. Over the next 12 months, I produced nearly 100,000 words. Wow. But when the time came to give my angsty characters a break and finally let them make out, I ran into a small problem. I don't know how to write about kissing. I need to make out with someone for research. Listen. We need to make out. It's for science. It's research, I swear. It seems like that's all we're gonna get about this rough moment. I wonder. Um, I, I yeah, I don't know. I wonder who they lost, and I'm really sad for them. I have a very strict policy of never making out with my friends, so I'll have to be a stranger. Where do I find a stranger who will make out with me? Tinder? But I don't have a smartphone. I'll ask Phoebe about it. Dude, just upgrade your phone. I'm sure it's been more than 2 years. I have never upgraded. You're still using your first phone? How old is it? 5 years? It's only four. Oh, this is me. Oh, my sister is somewhere being like, oh, we've had this exact conversation of like, oh, I've had this phone for like 6 years. It's fine. It works. It's like, no, you need come with me. We're getting an upgrade. Note: I didn't get my first phone or my driver's license until I was 21 and a senior in undergrad. I think my driver's license I was 18. My first phone I don't remember actually. It was definitely while I was an adult. Maybe 18 or 19, something like that. I'm taking you to the Verizon store tomorrow. Yay, will you also help me set up a Tinder profile? I need to make out with someone soon for the fan fiction. Oh my god, yes. So excited. To put this commitment to research into perspective, other things I did in service of my fic include: watched 10 hours of live college modern dance performances, spent several days driving around San Francisco scouting locations, toured the SF Armory, which at the time housed the filming studios of Kink.com. I also scrolled through many yes, no, maybe lists online trying to decide if my ships were sexually compatible, as you do. One day I found this kink defined on Wikipedia. Autoandrophilia refers to a person assigned female at birth who is sexually aroused at the thought of or image of having male genitalia or being a man. Wow, I never knew there was a word for that. For me. So I appreciate that this was helpful for them. As I understand it, the origin of the term autoandrophilia and androgynophilia is not great. Is from like a very dubious researcher who was like delegitimizing trans experience by just saying, oh, they're just androgynophiles or whatever else. ContraPoints has an amazing video on the subject. I hope it's still up if you want to check it out. That said, I'm very glad this was helpful for the author here. But as I understand it, this was these terms were used to delegitimize, not to describe your like just natural experience, but to demonize and maybe demonize isn't the right word. Pathologize trans man experience. My very brief Tinder journey. I matched with 6 women. I sent all of them a first message. 4 of them responded. 2 of those responses developed into conversations. I asked if they wanted to meet in person. They both said yes. That's awesome. So I picked a time to meet candidate Y. She had come off as shy in our messages. I tried to get a sense of her hobbies, interests, and aspirations, but she seemed hesitant to reveal them. Candidate Y arrived 30 minutes late. I waited because it was my first ever date. It soon became clear that every activity in her life revolved around alcohol. Her dream was to get a bartending license. Her hobby was drinking to blackout multiple times per week. The reason she was late was that she had totaled her car the night before, and so had to walk to the coffee shop. Within 45 minutes, it seemed clear that we had nothing in common, which didn't stop her from asking if I wanted to go back to her place. Maybe she just wanted to ride back to her apartment, but I said no. Since that date constituted 100% of my dating experience, I was more than a little nervous for my meeting with candidate Z. I needed to have been. She was amazing. She seems super cool. Look at her. She looks cool as hell. We talked for nearly 3 hours. I learned she had been married and divorced, loved reptiles and books, had recently gone back to school to finish her degree, and her day job was managing a sex toy store. You are much cuter than your pictures showed. I was thinking that too. Thank you for saying it first. As I drove home, I remember thinking, forget research. I don't want to make out with her for myself. We planned a second date. In the interest of transparency, you should know that I'm 25 years old and I've never had sex. I haven't kissed anyone since elementary school. My main kink is autoandrophilia. Penetration is a hard no for me, and I'm weirdly grossed out by some bodily fluid, so unfortunately I probably wouldn't feel comfortable going down on you. It's important to be open and honest with people. This is good. Do this. Do this thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dump like this, and you can like, context and all this, but communication is good. If literally any of that is a deal breaker for you, I will completely understand. If you want to buy out at the end of this date because of any reason, I won't be offended. None of that is a deal breaker for me. Yay! And oh no, we have a few more pages. There's actually something I should tell you too. Oh yeah, what's that? I decided to stop shaving my pubic hair and legs because, well, I've been doing it for like 10 years and I don't want to anymore. But all my hair is kind of half grown in right now. Hopefully that's not too gross for you. That's no big deal. I have literally all the hair on every part of my body. Have you ever shaved your pubic hair? Nope. That's so brave. Brave? I always thought of it as lazy. Fast forward. We've been dating for 2 months. We've made out. We've had sex. We've moved on to sexting at work. I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on for. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You are going to look so hot. So this is where it's like, this is where we're getting like, maybe this should be 18 plus exclusively. Welcome to the library. I can't wait to have. Okay. Your thing in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside me. Holy shit! This is the most turned on I've ever been in my life. I am dying. So now we're getting the last. So this is the most explicit we've gotten, and where I'm like, yeah, this is probably not appropriate for anyone under 18. That's fine. We'll keep reading it because I'm finding it valuable anyway. But this is the last time for this portion that I'm gonna have to remove the browser window. Uh, I encourage you again to read along if you're over 18. It is a depiction of exactly what was suggested here, but just the first part where Maia's girlfriend goes down on her while wearing this, and it's the depiction of going down, but it like nobody's nude. It's just like you see the toy in her mouth or whatever. This is the visual I've been picturing, but I can't feel anything. This was much hotter when it was only in my imagination. Hey Z, let's try something else. Of course. Literally one page, and that was all there is to it. But yeah, probably not appropriate for kid. Like they'd have to be like a pretty mature, like one of those like maybe 16, 17, and like whoever's handing it to them like knows that, like maybe a parent is like, you're old enough to understand this, it's fine. Yeah, all right, fine. I think we're at probably not appropriate for anyone for kids, probably 18 and up only. It's probably where I'm landing, such as it is. I know we said we could stop once we came to a conclusion, but I'm enjoying this and I hope you are too. So we'll keep going just for our own sake. But yeah, it does seem like it's not appropriate for anyone in school. Um, that was a little on the fence, and I could be convinced otherwise. Um, but I'd have to be convinced. At this point, I'm like, maybe it's not appropriate for even older teenagers. But that said, there's a part of me as we're asking this question that is going, well, what really is the difference between being 18 and being like 17 and 6 months, 17 and 9 months, 17 and 10 months, just turned 17. Like this 1 year, it's a difference. There is a difference as far as how we handle it, and there ought to be a difference legally speaking, obviously. But for what subject material is appropriate, I start to wonder what is, what isn't. And I don't really know. I don't really have good answers. It's not like I'm a parent or anything like that. I'm trying to understand it just like as I'm talking about it with you. So chat, let me know if you have any thoughts about it, if there's anything you want to contribute to this, but I'm still trying to figure it out. I do lean towards maybe it's not appropriate for kids. But maybe like 17 probably shouldn't be in the school library. That seems kind of fair. Should it be banned? We'll get to that when we finish. Well, why don't I save my thoughts on that for the end? So that'll be like something to look forward to probably tomorrow. We'll finish up this section, then we'll probably be done for the day. Everything we did today was a good experience, but now that I've had sex a few times, I'm not really sure I need any more. Trying to get off in front of someone is kind of weird. Oh yeah, I get that. I think when I do orgasm, it's not because of my body, but in spite of it. It seems very mental for them, which is not which is not uncommon. There are people where it is very, very mental and very emotional and things like that. That is a thing, and again, nothing wrong with it. But obviously, coming to understand themselves. This is what we're talking about. A few days later, I think the fact that I don't see myself as or understand myself as a female person. I think the fact. Oh, I think it's supposed to be. I think the fact is that I don't see myself or understand myself as a female person, but that most of the people I interact with do, is actually damaging all of. Oh, okay. Never mind. I just didn't understand the structure of this. So I think the fact that I don't see myself as or understand myself as a female person, but that most of the people I interact with do, is actually damaging all of my relationships, even ones with my family and friends. Sex just throws this into high relief because it involves contact with my genitals. Incredibly uh this is incredibly wise. Like, holy crap, that you could understand this, even like this, um like, even at this age. Like, I mean, not like, this is still pretty young, right? Like, we're talking about early 20s. uh yeah, that's like impressive to be able to understand yourself that well. I don't know that I can do that now. A lot of people will go their whole lives without being able to understand themselves this well. That's really interesting. Now, obviously, they've done a whole lot of introspection their whole life. They've had to, in a lot of ways. But still, I think it's noteworthy. This whole dating thing is making me more and more confused and less happy. I don't think I want to do it anymore. When she told me, I'm starting to get a real crush on you. I'm really sorry, but I need to stop dating for a while. I have too much gender stuff to figure out first. I can't remember when I first started seeing pronouns listed on people's profiles on Tumblr. 2015? Earlier? But the first person I remember getting to know who uses they them pronouns was one of my CCA teachers, Melanie Gilman. They are a comics professor, author of The Crow Flies, and an all around excellent person. Also, fly as fuck. Look at this person. Awesome as shit. Goddamn. My classmates and I were determined not to misgender them but we made frequent mistakes. This is really common, and I imagine we're going to get a little bit of understanding. As I understand it, as long as you're like, at least my perspective on like accidental misgendering is, you know what, it happens. Try to catch yourself. Try to do right by people's pronouns. I know mistakes suck, but they happen. Just as long as you're trying to do better, right? What can you ask of people? I would correct people. What did Melanie say was due today? Redacted incorrect pronoun said to turn in our business cards. You mean they said? Arg, yes. And it takes a lot of getting used to with they them. I'm not used to it. I am trying in part to practice here, but it doesn't even take that much practice. The first day we were reading this, I made a lot of mistakes. I remember I goofed a lot. Uh, but I'm getting better at it now. It's easy for me to use they them for the author here, and it, just improvement is all it takes, right? Like, just work at it. Um, it might not be super intuitive, and that's part of the thing. Is like, this has been something that we've done intuitively for a long time, and now to be it's so that we don't hurt people as much. Sometimes we have to correct ourselves, pay a little more attention. But once you do, I mean, I've seen people. I've seen people do this effortlessly. That you can. It's something you can get used to. I wouldn't say I'm there yet, but I am trying. I'm working on it. Only to turn around and make the same exact mistake 30 seconds later. Yeah. What's due to Melanie? Redacted said the business cards. You mean they said? Yeah, yep. Oh, and just, yeah. You get used to it, though. Learning to use new words is hard at first, but I practiced all semester. They teach our class. They are non-binary. They draw comics. They make good PowerPoints. They like kayaking. They wear cool earrings. Somewhere along the way, it clicked. What's due to Melanie on Monday? They want our website graphics. So I was on this blog last week. So I was on his blog last week. Actually, Rob uses they them pronouns now. Oh, do they? That's cool. Right. So I was on their blog, and it became easy. Yeah, it becomes intuitive really quick. I wonder if some amount of resistance people have to using different pronouns or they them or neo pronouns is just the uncomfortability with doing it wrong for a bit. But it does. I don't know. It seems like anything else. You get used to it. At Thanksgiving in 2015, my sister brought her new boyfriend to stay with me and my parents for the first time. Amila Kure. He is an engineer at JPL. That's awesome. Owner of many Hawaiian shirts. Similarly awesome. A lover of camping and dogs. Also awesome. Wrench and screwdriver tattoo. Neat. Amila is the first person I've watched take testosterone. So your period stopped? Months ago. Wow, amazing. So why do you identify as non-binary rather than as a trans man? Okay, so at this point, remember, the author has not said that they identify as non-binary yet, but here we have it coming up. I do like more and more we're seeing like we aren't actually living their life with them. We don't actually get to be in their head. They're showing us pieces, and we can appreciate that as being more than we get from people normally. But remember, we don't see everything, and that's okay, right? There are, I think, there's doing a lot of work here to remind you that you're going to be seeing this from the outside most of the time. This is a brief glimpse you've gotten of the inside, but you're going to see a person who just like it seems to be an implication that you'll see someone who just says, "Hey, I'm non-binary. I use they them." The fact that you don't get access to the inside is normal. That shouldn't change that they feel the way they do, even if you don't know what those feelings are. That's not that's not requisite for you. That shouldn't be necessary to respect someone's pronouns and wishes, right? And I don't think that that's necessarily being said, but it's something I'm reading from it. And that can be valid too, by the way. People often are like, "Oh, if it's not there, then it's not there." It's like, well, if you can read something out from a work and have value from it, like even if it's not intended, that doesn't mean I won't say that doesn't mean it's not there. I guess what I'll say is like that can be of value even if unintended. And in fact, if you remind me, I'll likely forget. There's a poem I like a lot that I have recently um, taken a different reading to, which I found very interesting. Well, I'm not going to do that today or while we're reading this, but if someone reminds me once we're done with this, I'll be happy to share because I think about that poem all the time. Uh, because really, I want people to be confused about my gender at all times. I wonder if that's because they also are similarly confused. Well, maybe not confused, but like, the category. It would make more sense for their gender identity for there to be that confusion than to have that certainty. I don't want a beard, and I don't want my voice to change. I don't want more gendered traits. I want less. If tea magically makes you grow a dick, though, I'll let you know. A few months after breaking up with Z, I pondered reopening Tinder. I don't regret trying out the whole dating romance thing because now I have some context for what people talk about all the time. Do I want to try out a romantic emotional commit with someone else? Honestly, no. But I never figured out how to end my fanfiction. Back to research. Hey Ashley, would you please write all of the sex scenes from my fic? Oh, okay, different guy. Obviously, I'd credit you as the co-author on AO3 and owe you an eternal gratitude. I have I have been waiting for you to ask. I have several thousand words written already. I'm emailing them to you now. Type. Oh my god, I'm so excited to read them. Thank you. That's so cool that they're. I have got you. I'm ready. Don't worry. Ah, perfect. Problem solved. Delete Tinder? Yes. As I understand, a good, healthy decision overall, irrespective of the circumstance. I remember when I first realized I never had to have children. It was like walking out of a narrow alley into a wide open field. I never have to get married. I never have to date anyone. I don't even have to care about sex. These realizations were like gifts that I gave to myself. Like that freedom. It's something that like maybe people don't realize they don't have if they're in that track. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people like myself are okay, like kind of like these aspects about life. But it can be really freeing for people to be like, yeah, I don't have to, and you don't have to. There's a photo of me about age 4 posing with a kitten, unaware, uncaring that my mermaid undies were also on display. By first grade, I had switched from girl underwear to soft cotton shorts. My mom called these bike shorts and bought them for me without comment. When I started my period, I quickly realized that pads and shorts were not compatible. By the way, in case anyone is concerned about like TOS or whatever, this is literally just like an advertisement you'd see in Walmart. Uh, I quickly realized pads and shorts were not compatible. Which six pack do I hate the least? Very reluctantly, I returned to the girls section. I bought essentially the exact same ones for 15 years. I'd pull out the inevitable pink and purple pairs and give them to Phoebe, keeping only the dark neutral colors for myself. Where are you, Hanes Cotton Bikini Cuts six pack? It's not here? Phoebe, Phoebe, Phoebe. What? They don't have any more of my plain underwear. Everything has lace on it. What do I do? Help me. Do you want to look in the boys section? Yes. Wait, is that an option? Will anything fit me? Amelia gets his there. Oh, wow. Wow, there you go. These have dinosaurs. These have spaceships. These have comics on them. I, I'm not terribly familiar with men's underwear that has that stuff on them, except for like kids. But I don't know. Maybe that's different. I guess if you do more like boxers, it has that stuff. But will they fit me? Will I be comfortable? We'll rip open a pack in the dressing room, and you can try them on over your other underwear. Okay? So how do they feel? They feel good. No, they feel great. When I got home, it seemed like a small miracle. 6 pairs of underwear in a pack, and not one of them was pink. Why did I waste so many years buying underwear that I hated? I could have been wearing cute, nerdy briefs this whole time. How would I help support a young person who came to me with the same feelings I have about gender? Reading The Gender Creative Child by Diane Aronsoft? Obviously, I would listen and believe them. I'd ask them if they wanted to do some level of social transition. If the kid hadn't hit puberty yet, I'd say try hormone blockers, but it's too late for that for me, sadly. I already have short hair, and I've been wearing non-gender specific clothes for years. I don't want to change my name, but I like the idea of changing pronouns. There's so much to talk about here. I think this page is great, as I've been saying over and over as we've been reading this. But this is one of the things where we return to the question of like, is there something that's valuable to younger kids in this book? And this page sums it up really nicely. How would I help support a young person who came to me with the same feelings I have about gender? Because these people exist. These children exist. And to act like they don't is in a way cruel. We saw what Maia went through growing up and a lot of the confusion and difficulty and discomfort and anguish that could come along, that could have been possibly alleviated or at the very least mitigated by having an understanding and being able to relate to somebody. And that's really valuable. And they're looking to see like maybe, other people can help. And now we ask, okay, now understanding that people like Maia exist and people like Amila, I believe his name was Amila. And people like Amila exist. And they're normal people. And it's okay to be like them. In fact, they seem pretty awesome, so like being like them seems pretty cool actually. Not necessarily that you have to be trans or non-binary to be cool. Like, not the like, oh, gender trender type sentiment so much as like they're cool people, and one of the aspects about them is that in this case Maia seems not non-binary, and that's fine. And so the question is like, what should we do? First step, the first thing that comes to mind, and the first thing that comes to my mind is something that's written out of the conversation by the people who whip up hysteria about this, which is social transition. People complain. People are like, "Oh, they have kids transitioning and going to get surgery or whatever." Kids don't get surgery. But the first thing to look at in this regard for a kid who's experiencing these things is social transition. This requires no surgery, no pills, nothing but a change of maybe name, maybe depending on what they want, maybe pronouns, and maybe clothes, but being treated in a different way, with a different gender, to see how they like it. There's no harm in this. And if people want, and if a kid goes, you know what, that isn't right for me, cool. But now they know, right? And what harm is that? But this is what transition looks like for like a 7-year-old. When people start screaming about like they want 7-year-olds to get surgery. No, nobody's talking about that. Social transition. And it can be as long-standing or as temporary as is appropriate for the person. And you can see how much that could have. We can imagine how much that could have helped someone like Maya. Maybe that wasn't right for them. Maybe it was. I don't know. But like that it wasn't available. Well, it makes you ask the what ifs, right? And this is where I stand for like how young is too young to transition. For social transition, literally not. There isn't an age. Why should there be? If a 4-year-old wants to call me he him instead of she her, and like I want to wear shorts instead of a skirt. Who the fuck cares? Who is it hurting? Ben Shapiro will pretend like it's causing gender confusion. No, the experience of not understanding how you feel, that's the confusion. And if the kid like says, "Okay, I don't actually like being a boy. I think I am more comfortable being a girl." Okay, now what? Puberty blockers only happen. This will be wild for people. You're never gonna believe me on this. Before puberty, like during and before puberty, it's not given to 5-year-olds. In fact, the only time it's given to 5-year-olds is when they have early onset puberty, precocious puberty as it's called, which is what hormone blockers are for. That or puberty blockers, I should say. That's what they're for. The intended use, because puberty for a 5-year-old could be really, really harmful. It's what they're for. But by giving people choices, giving people options, these are good things, and we can see how difficult experience can be when you don't understand. And this is the value. I think this page, we're going to make a note. Uh, Page 186. Best page in the book. Summarizes the whole thing. All right. Only a little bit to go in this section. Let's keep on keeping on. But honestly, for real, I can't emphasize this enough. This page, I feel, is like the heart of this book and why it matters. Female pronouns feel less and less accurate lately when I hear them used for me. But what would feel accurate? He, him, his, they, them, theirs, he or they, he or they. What am I? The first time I met, and by the way, this experience is different from person to person. There are some non-binary people who are comfortable with any all, some who very specifically want he, they. It varies from person to person. But understand, like, this is something that's meaningful to a person, and even if it's not really meaningful, who cares? Like someone asks you to say it, like, hey, my pronouns are he, they, or they, them, or whatever. Just like, okay, cool. Like, who's it hurting? Just be nice. I first met Jaina B at Galen's family's annual New Year's Eve party in 2003 when I was 14. Jaina B is Jaina B E. Jaina B E is a writer and zine maker. Is it zine? And a collector of ephemera. Owner of an art house in San Francisco, Granny's University of the Imagination. The first person I ever met who'd won a NaNoWriMo? NaNoWriMo? I have no idea what that is. What is a NaNoWriMo? Thank you for asking. National Novel Writing Month. You try to write a whole 50,000 word book in just 30 days. That's crazy. Wow. What? You've done that? More than once. 50,000 euros in 1 month? My mind reeled. Yeah, my mind's reeling. That's incredible. I assume that when you do this, you're like like maybe you do your outlining or something ahead of time, and then it's just the actual writing that's the 30 days. But wow. Jana and I lost touch with each other and only reconnected at the New Year's Eve party in 2015. What have you been up to for the past decade? I've been ordained as a pagan's priestess, and I identify as non-binary now. Wow, me too. Tell me more. For me, female presentation has always been a performance, a fun performance with sequins, glitter, and wild hair. But for a lot of my life, I've felt like a drag queen in a female body. That makes perfect sense. By the way, ContraPoints has expressed a similar sentiment. I don't know how much of that is just part of the performance of the video. Yada yada. I'm not going to speak to her to her view of herself, but she has previously done a lot of like over the top drag style get-ups in her videos, and has described it in one of them as being a a female woman impersonator, or like a drag queen who is a woman. I've been thinking about switching to they them pronouns, but for some reason that doesn't feel quite right. What pronouns do you use? I use Spivak pronouns, ear, as in ask him what he wants in air t. Ear. So this is one I don't know what the pronunciation is, and I'm sorry if I'm struggling. And I have never tried using neo pronouns. I imagine I will have some difficulty, but try to improve on that. I don't know what Spivak, what that means. I love those pronouns. I just got the biggest tingle down my spine. And notice, like, it can be really meaningful to someone. By the way, again, does not have to be, but like, look, you can see how much it impacts them or impacts him. That was my reaction too. Asking people to start using new pronouns for me seemed like such a huge request, though. I know people will mess up, and then what do I do? If I correct someone, will they get mad? I'd love to use these pronouns, but I don't want to inconvenience people. Again, the kind of thing that a younger person might. I'm sure this is a very common experience with anyone who might want to use different pronouns than the ones that are expected of them. So instead of asking people to do something to make you feel more comfortable, you'd rather just feel a little uncomfortable all the time? You'd rather internalize and carry that discomfort every time someone who loves you misgenders you? Well, when you put it that way, and yeah, like we can, it's not really a big deal. People change names and genders, and it's fine. It's okay. As I pondered a pronoun change, I began to think of gender less as a scale and more as a landscape. Some people are born in the mountains while others are born by the sea. Some people are happy to live in the place they were born, while others must make a journey to reach the climate in which they can flourish and grow. That's a I like this. I like this metaphor a lot. Um, yeah, that's really evocative. Between the ocean and the mountains is a wild forest. That is where I want to make my home. Okay. In case anyone's, they're gonna say it. I assume they're gonna say it in just a second. They're playing Settlers of Catan, a very common and very good game. It's usually like a good entryway into the more modern era of board games. It's very different from things like Monopoly and Risk and whatever. And it's somewhere in between there and how wild board games can and have gotten. So but also it is a game wherein there's a lot of landscapes, and those landscapes are different, and like the idea of like, oh, there's a forest between the mountain and the sea. That's literally a thing that can happen in Catan. That's why I thought it was kind of funny of like, oh, I wonder where you got this idea. It might be completely unrelated. It's just funny to me. I enjoyed it. Happening to know, by the way, if you're not familiar with modern board games, Settlers is a great way to get into it. It's a fun game too. Almost every game shop, I think every game shop I've ever been to has a copy. They have them at like Target too, if you want to check it out. But also game shops usually have a copy where you can try it. You can just like, play it while you're there and play, demo the game. Does anyone want to trade brick for wheat? Sorry, no. Michael, my closest in-age cousin. My Aunt Sherry, who came out as a lesbian feminist before I was born. Nope. Uh, your turn. Thanks. So what do you two think would happen if I asked my family to use different pronouns for me? What pronouns would you want? My favorite are ear. Air? Because I'm thinking it's like maybe it's like if you took off the H from he, you took off the TH from them, you take out the TH from there, like maybe also like maybe it's air. But I realize those sound like made up words. Everyone in this family loves and supports you, so I'm sure they will give it their best effort. But we will also mess it up a lot. What's more important, people changing the words they use for you or changing how they think about you. If people could just switch to thinking of me as gender non-binary, that would be amazing. But the only way I can think of to initiate a switch in thinking is to start with a switch of words. If you ask me to start using new pronouns for you, of course I will. But I'd like you to explain why. Right now I don't understand, and I'm going to keep asking until I do. This feels like this could be. Obviously, I'm not non-binary, so I don't know how this would necessarily come across, but this feels to me like trying to put myself in my shoes. Like this might feel a little imposing. Of like, okay, you're just gonna keep asking. That can be like kind of a lot, and um, like what if I don't give you the right answers, are you not gonna? But it seems more like just really wanting to understand, like from their aunt's perspective or from Air Ant's perspective. Um, wanting to understand, to be, to understand you, not just for me, but for you, to so that I can treat you how you want to be treated, and that's where it seems like Air Ant is coming from. What if I'm never able to explain, but I can tell you that it would make me happy? Would that be reason enough? Your happiness is very important to me, but I have a hard time seeing this trend of FTM, trans, and genderqueer young people as something other than a kind of misogyny, a deeply internalized hatred of women. Oh, I wonder if this is like kind of like a little bit turfiness coming out. Um, yeah, your happiness is very important to me, but because like I was hoping, as I'm guessing Maya was hoping, that that Air Ant would just say like, you know what, that is reason enough, and it in even at my like trying to put myself in the ant shoes here, like it would be reason enough that you asked. I want to understand, partially for myself and partially, to treat you right, to understand how you'd prefer to be treated and like what goes along with this and yada yada etc. Um, but it seems like that's not where Air Ant is coming from. I don't I don't know how to explain that is not what this is. This conversation lasted until past 1 a.m. when I was finally getting ready to go. Are you sure you don't want to stay here? I'd rather you didn't drive so late. I'll be fine. Well, I know you are a grown woman, but be careful. I know you are a grown-up person. Sorry. Yes, thank you. And you see, that little bit can go a long way. Just try. Right? Step one is to try. Step two is to get it right. As I drove home, that went pretty well, but there were a lot of points I never finished making. Will I ever feel like I've completely explained myself? No. And I don't mean that for you specifically, Maya. I mean that for literally anything. I feel like that constantly with a huge number of subjects. But this is why things like this book are valuable, and things like art and philosophy and all sorts of all sorts of disciplines are valuable because they can help people understand. But no, kind of a tragedy of the human experience is that we are all, to some degree, trapped in our own skulls, and will never be fully understood the way we understand ourselves or the way we want to be understood. We can only get closer and closer. It's in my mind, the beautiful tragedy of human experience. That's one of the reasons why I like language so much. Is language is the first and biggest step outside of our own heads that uh, and we're lucky enough to get that as being human, and having language to express ourselves. Just, I mean, really think about like how much you get to express yourself because you can make this comic, because you can speak, and other people can hear and understand and read. And it's a huge step out, but unfortunately, we never get out of the cage, not fully. We can only we can only shrink the bars and reach further out. At home, I tossed and turned over Sherry's misogyny comment. What if she's right? Our society's treatment of women is so toxic. Have I just been brainwashed into hating parts of myself? From what's been expressed in this comic, no, but obviously we're seeing Maya on the other end of Air experience, you know? Like we have the benefit of all of Air introspection. You know, that's not the position that E's in right now, you know? I am struggling. I'm trying. I'm trying so hard to use the pronouns, the air pronouns. I am struggling. I'll be honest. I'm struggling, but I am trying. All right. But no, I know that isn't true. I've spent my whole life not feeling male or female. I've always wanted a third option. And by the way, it is a quirk of the societies that there are two options as opposed to three. While it might feel very natural because there are two sexes, asterisk, because sex is also not binary. Um, there are cultures that have third gender traditions. The ones most commented on are two spirit people of. I don't know if it's ubiquitous among indigenous cultures. I would assume not. But indigenous cultures in the United States and Hydra in India. And you know, had had Maya been born in India, maybe that third option would have felt more appropriate. You know, I don't know. I don't know what is associated with Hydra, but as a gender. But the point is, it's kind of a quirk that we live in a society that there are two options. This is by no means inherent or necessary or the only way things could be or should be. But why am I like this? Sometimes I feel like my sexuality is broken and my gender is broken. I feel like there are all these wires in my brain which were supposed to connect body to gender identity and sexuality, but they've all been twisted into a huge snarl mess. So this is the association that has been assumed and is even more now pushed as true and correct and natural and good and normal and so on by the people that we've seen in previous debate reviews that insist on uh, biological essentialism, right? You were born this way is attached inherently to gender identity and sexuality, and that's the way things. But it does, clearly that's not accurate to the human experience. I considered these feelings to a, I confided these feelings to a long distance friend. Sometimes I feel like my brain is a machine built by someone who lost the instruction manual, Maya. I feel that way too sometimes too. You should check out a book that my aunt wrote called "Touching a Nerve: Self as Brain." When I read it, I was fascinated and weirdly relieved. I hope you will be too. Marion. Patricia Churchland, PhD, is an analytical philosopher noted for her invention of neurophilosophy. Her credentials include Professor Emeritus at UC San Diego, Adjunct Professor at Salk Institute of Biological Studies, recipient of a MacArthur Fellowship, Fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. So this is where we're going to leave things here today. I would be very interested in continuing. I'm getting into the rhythm and enjoying it. The difficulty is I won't know about stuff coming up to know if I have to like take it down. What I'm going to do right now is just like is take it down so I can like scroll through and see how much longer we have to go. I'm not even going to like see if anything would be inappropriate. That's not what I'm looking for. I just want to see how much was left in the book. It seems we have about 40 pages left, but we'll leave this for tomorrow. I hope everyone is getting as much out of this book as I am. I'm finding it actually before I do that. I'm finding it very interesting and worth going over. I think at this point, it seems like it's not appropriate for people under 18. There's some wiggle room of like, well, if a parent thinks like, kind of in the same way like a rated R movie is intended for people over the age of 18, but if a parent thinks their 17-year-old can handle it, or even their like 8-year-old can handle it, you know, they can make that call based on how their kid is. It seems kind of in that camp to me, though it is a lot closer to the cusp than I think it's being discussed as. Um, People talk about it like, oh, it's very clearly and unambiguously not at all possible for anyone who is in school to pause. Though of course people are usually talking about it in the context of like they see here school children, they think 10-year-old, and obviously not. I mean, they're high school kids. They are older and more mature, if not mature. You know, teenagers are still teenagers. But I hope you're getting stuff out of it too. Uh, we haven't had much conversation in chat. I hope we'll alleviate. I hope that will change in the future. But you know, we're here on Kick now. We're doing it, you know, and we'll see how things progress on this channel. I have been recording, so we'll upload this to YouTube, and we'll still have that there. But we're gonna call it for the day. We'll pick up and finish with this next time, and I think I will reach out to the author. I know I'm a minuscule channel, but maybe Aid be interested. Is it Aid? Oh, I guess it's maybe E'd be interested. I think it's maybe E'd be interested. All right, I will ask about this in the event that he wants to come on and is willing to discuss things with me, because I think this book is really interesting, really valuable, and there's some stuff I'd like to talk about if he'd be interested, you know. So thanks so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll finish this off, and I'll catch you then. Have a good one. Bye.